Hello everyone, my name is Ms.Torres and I'd like to share with you the topic of cooperative learning and some ideas to guide your implementation with ELL students. Straight from Johnson, Johnson and Holobeck in 1993, cooperative learning is the instructional use of small groups so that students work together to maximize their own and each other's learning. You might be saying to yourself, oh, this is group work. Well, the answer is yes and no. Cooperative learning does require students to work in groups, but it is structured much differently than traditional group work. Let me explain more. Cooperative learning is composed of 5 critical elements, and they are as followed: positive interdependence, individual accountability, promoting interaction, collaborative skills, and group processing. Let's go back to positive interdependence. This element requires students to share materials and roles in completing a task. Students know at this element when one fails in the group, they are all served with the consequences. Individual accountability. This element ensures that all individuals are doing their part, that there's not just that one person that does all of the work in the group. Promoting interaction, also known as face-to-face interaction, is defined when students are discussing and elaborating their thoughts to their peers or maybe providing feedback to a specific group member. Collaborative skills is one of the most beneficial elements, I believe, of cooperative learning. When students participate in cooperative learning, they are also developing their leadership skills, learning how to solve conflict resolution within the group, and build confidence to challenge ideas, not people, and of course compromise. As we all know, these are important skills for our students to have when working within their career. And finally, group processing. Group processing is the element of reflection. After each cooperative learning test, students should reflect on what went well while learning in the group and what could they improve at. All of these elements create a positive interactive learning experience for students in the classroom. When implementing cooperative learning with ELL students, there are some noticeable benefits. Firsthand, you will notice the possibilities of grouping your students. When working with a group of ELL students, we know very well that they are all never at the same English proficiency level. This situation is ideal for cooperative learning because it guarantees a learning experience for everyone participating. Because of this learning experience, students will experience an increase in academic achievement. Research shows that when we group our struggling students with other struggling students, they experience a negative 23% in student achievement. Let's ensure student achievement by having multi-leveled groups. When students feel success, they then have a better attitude toward learning and are encouraged to persevere through challenging tasks. And that is what we want. In order to implement successful cooperative learning, there are some things to consider to ensure that our ELL students are learning both the content and language. Number 1, know your students. Going back to grouping your students. You cannot group your students appropriately if you do not know them. It's important to incorporate students with different kinds of skills and interests so that they may learn from one another. 2, set group rules for your students so they know your expectations for noise level, conversation, and roles during cooperative learning tasks. And last but not least, make sure you are stating your language and content objectives. This is important for students to know so they know their goal as a group. Some strategies I like to implement during cooperative learning to support my ELL students are sentence stems, jigsaw, and numberheads. Sentence stems are used to support and guide student conversation. I purposely use sentence stems that include the language I want my students to be communicating during conversation. For example, I agree with you because, or I can relate to your experience because. Jigsaw is another great way to get students moving. I like to use jigsaw when I have reading sets on a particular topic. For example, we are learning about the women's rights movement in social studies. Each person in a group is assigned to a different reading about the women's rights movement. After discussing with their peers who read the same text, students come back to the original group and share what they learned. Using this method, students are sharing and learning different content and specific vocabulary from the text. Numbered heads is a great strategy I use to ensure that everyone is participating and engaged in the activity. With number heads, each group member has a number. At random times, I may ask a question that I would like each group to answer. They must first work together to answer or solve the problem, and then I will call one number from their group to present their group findings. Students do not know which number I will call beforehand, so all members must be ready to present. Thank you for viewing my channel. I hope you learned some helpful information on cooperative learning and how you can implement this strategy with your ELL students. Please feel free to comment and share your ideas below.